I got in one little fight and my mom got scared. She said,
Vinny.
coconuts.
That's why we got the vibe. You're a middle child. We gotta stick together.
Forgot to mention we are going to get a little bit deep,
You're ruffling my feathers.
geeking the fuck out about using these little Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lyrics on this episode.
Dude, the thing that connects me with music is being in that room, is thinking of my dad, is thinking of the music that I make for me as art and not a product to be sold.
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Amazing. Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Awesome.
How's
Let's
your
get
day
it.
going?
Good. How about you? I'm Andrew.
Nice to meet you, Andrew. I'm Mo. You can just call me Mo.
Mo. Hell yeah. Let's go.
How's your day been so far?
It's good, man. I cannot complain. I cannot complain.
What's
How
in
about
that
you?
cup? Coffee or tea?
Some coffee. Yeah, some espresso.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, my day's been going pretty good too. It's been kind of busy, but I've been so looking forward to this chat with you.
Same here. Here, let me look for a better location. Yeah, me too, dude. I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully, management gave you a bit of a heads up on the premise of the show. So it's going to be my job today to catch you off guard in the most positive ways for sure and ask you questions you've never been asked before. So
Let's go.
amazing. Well,
I'm an
before
open
we,
book.
no, I could tell. I've done a little bit of research. I try not to do some serious deep dives on my guests just because I don't want the creativity and the method to my madness to be influenced by other interviews. But I do a little bit of research here and there. And I actually found an interview you did a few years ago that inspired me to break the ice with you in this way. And in this interview, you talked about how you had been talking for over 20 minutes and you were wondering why you were filtering yourself to not cuss so much. And you made a joke about it. You were saying darn it or something. I don't remember exactly. I listened to it very briefly. This is how we're going to break the ice, Andrew. I'm going to go first, then you're going to go second. We're going to do it twice. And I want us to just say the cheesiest, nerdiest, clean, censored sayings that you can come up with. And I'll go first. Are you ready?
Okay.
Coconuts.
That's a good one. I like to say, what in tarnation? What in the absolute tarnation?
Darn you.
You're ruffling my feathers.
Perfect. So that's how we're breaking the ice, just to set the tone. We are going to be doing a lot of back and forth today. And not only is the premise of the show asking questions you've never been asked before, but we do a lot of creative collaborations on this show.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to be picking your creative brain, but hopefully you don't think I'm like the nerdiest person you've ever talked to in your life. So.
No, hell no. I'm a nerd as well, so it works out.
Amazing. So, full disclaimer, you can drop as many fuck bombs as you want now. We don't have to keep things so censored, okay?
Okay. Amazing.
So, you just wrapped up your tour with Mod, correct?
Yes.
First of all, I loved that you brought out the cello on this
Thank
tour.
you.
That was the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was so pumped about that. What is something about this tour that you would like to apply for your next venture on the road?
That's a great question. It was a long tour, right? In a lot of ways, it felt like two tours back to back because, out of four artists, this second of four switched halfway through. And we were also just in a different part of the United States. We experienced fall. So, in a lot of ways, it felt like two different things. So, I kind of want to answer it in the two parts a little bit, just because I was just doing a lot more roles than I've been used to on a tour, because I was playing in two bands, which meant two sound checks, two sets. But then I was also selling my own merch and bringing that in every night. And then in between sets and setup, running to meet people, try and sell some shirts, try and connect, on an even more personal level. And I think the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was hard for me to relax and just kind of have like the fun that I wanted to have. Like I had a blast. But I think the second half I'd gotten used to the schedule and was like, oh, now I can really like hang out with everybody too, and make songs on the road. It's a big thing for me. Like I like to produce. I also like to write my own stuff on the road. So I think like I definitely want to apply like an it's okay mindset, to not like kind of kill yourself to work so hard, but I do really want to apply the work ethic I had on this last tour to the next one because I could just see and feel progress, which nowadays, it's hard to find in a lot of ways. But on this tour, I was like, this is the right thing to be doing. This is where I'm at. I picked to be here, and also like just going out with best friends is like a huge thing.
Oh, for sure. Do you feel like writing in the midst of that chaos, magic was made?
Yes. Yes. I think that's the best time. I feel like the only time that I sometimes struggle to write for my artist project is when I'm doing too much music. I'm writing too much music for other people. I think that when you're thrown into performing every night your own music, and even then it's the same. It's not new music that you're playing. I would switch it up and sometimes play like a new random song, but for the most part, it's like this is the performance brain. It's different than the writing brain, and then the whole day is lifting stuff up. So that makes you creative. It's like I remember some of my most creative days was when I had a job and lived in my mom's house, and I'd be yearning to create. And that's what happens on tour is that like you yearn to record.
I think that's something a lot of creatives can definitely, relate to because I know for me, something I talked about very early on before I even had any listeners, I talked about this on the show. I talked about
Mm.
how people don't really understand how sometimes you do thrive in chaos because you don't know how to shut your mind off as a creative. You're constantly running on creativity, you're constantly brainstorming on ideas, and it's not a very easily thing to juggle, which we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, what is something about this tour that is so memorable to you that you just cannot stop thinking about?
Oh man. Well, I had two drums for one show, and I keep thinking about that. Sam from Lovely the Band joined me on stage in Texas, in Austin, and Kyle, Mod's drummer, was playing for me. He was a real one and was like, I'll also do two sets a night. But having Sam and Kyle play together, it just worked well. That was like definitely a memorable one. And then, oh, also in Minneapolis, Chop, who's in my band, he DJs. We've been friends for the longest. We've lived together since we moved out here. He flew out and we played Mod's hometown show. And it's also the venue where they shot Purple Rain. And I got to see Prince's bike. And Prince is my favorite guitar player. So it was like that. That's an experience. I was like, the show was awesome. I was with my day one homie and just being able to see Prince's bike. I was like, damn, I was still parked in a spot.
That is so sick. I know that just mentioned a couple of people that you got to share the stage with. And something that I
Mm-hmm.
had on my next question, which fits perfectly with this next one, because you have obviously done a lot of work with some incredible artists. And I'd like to go down the list, but it's so fucking long. So people just use Google, okay? But I will say this, or I did come up with this question for you in regards to so many artists that you've worked with. If
Mm-hmm.
tonight, literally tonight, you were to pack up to go on another tour, who are you
Mm-hmm.
bringing with you to headline this tour with? It could be someone you've worked with or you haven't worked with. Just truly curious.
Well, some of my favorite artists that I think like would be such a cool tour would be like, well, McGee is just out of here. As far like I love his music. Gene Dawson, MGK. I mean, like Bon Iver's like the legend. Like that would be, or the 1975. That would be awesome. Those are like artists I listen to a lot. 44 Phantom is someone I think is like that's so good. And then Zero. I've never toured with my friend Zero. I'm wearing a shirt right now. I've made all of his stuff from damn near the start, but we've never gone on an actual tour together. Like I've played instruments in his band before, like drums on a cruise, or he's come out to perform a song on my thing, but that would be awesome. Especially after touring with Mod and like how good of friends we are. Be like, damn, it'd be fun to do that with Zero. That'd be sick
No, that
if
would
I
be
opened for
so
him.
sick. Do you feel like where Andrew is today in life, just in general, when you
Mhm.
talk about these things, do they feel possible to you?
Yes. Yeah. Tor really helped with that. Tor really helped with that because you get to like see it firsthand. It's hard when everything's like numbers on the internet. You have to remind yourself that every day stuff is you're working towards something and you're getting bigger even if you don't see it, you know. That's why I always tell people, like, people come up to me at the merch table that are artists too, and they'd be like, "Oh, we listened to the demo that I have." It's like, yeah, of course. And anytime they're like, "Do you have advice?" It's like, dude, just keep going. Like, make a plan, execute it, but just know that even when you're not working, you're working because it's out there in the world, you know. So yeah, definitely after tour, I can imagine it way easier.
I feel like that is so nice of you. Like the narcissist part of me would be like, send it to my management. I don't have time and buy my shirt, please. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. But that is so amazing. I love that. I love that, you are connecting with people. And that is something I really do stand with also, which is why I'm dabbling into some fun projects in 2025 that will require people to disconnect in order to connect with their favorite artists. So I love that you said that. And now that you are done with tour, how are you juggling producing, but also being an artist yourself? Because I know that is a very not taboo topic, but I think that a lot of people forget that it's not, and I feel like I repeat myself a lot on episodes when I say this, but it's not just make music, record it, put it out into the world, and it's done. There's so much more that goes
No.
to it. How are you juggling that? Because those are two completely different worlds.
Well, dude, it's hard. Yeah, I feel like we're finally back in a time where being an artist and a producer is kind of like can be respected again. Like I think there was a time when that wasn't, oddly enough, because before then it was like, like when Kanye first came out, it was like, oh my God, like he's doing both. They're like, I think Jack Antonoff helped with that, but it's hard to budget the time. That's why I'm saying it's not an easy thing to do because yeah, on the outside it's like, oh, you're just making songs, but I think it's important that when you're your own artist as well as a writer producer, your own stuff shouldn't sound like what you make for other people. It can have like the influence and the sauce because I think in a lot of ways, like having an arts project helps you produce more because people will want that sound, but you still have to find that separation of what makes this special or else why am I giving it to me instead of someone who deserves it more. So even down to like lyrically, I'm like, I got to make it more personal. So that being said, like the balance is I tend to, when I work with other people, we spend time on songs, but I enter someone else's world and I try and figure out what's best for them. One, what they're telling me they want, but two, what I see for them. Cause that's like an important part of producing and writing is like having your own vision as well, but not stepping on the toes of what the artist wants. But I tend to, for my stuff, I write it, or if I mess around with the beat and I kind of like take my time. So my balance is like even on tour, like last year I toured with Grandson and I wrote the song I'm putting out next, but I didn't finish that beat until about 3 weeks ago. So it's a different process as far as balance. I think I need to get a little better personal goal. That's why I say need. It's not necessarily need, but I feel as though I need to get better at being more constant at the balance of making my own stuff. Like I should like certain days be like, I'm gonna do nothing today. Even if I don't write a no love song, it's at least a day where I can be in my world. That's kind of what the balance is. Like I would say I book a lot of sessions for writing on other people's stuff because it's easier to view it as something that I'm working towards. Whereas with an artist project, I always want it to feel like this is me. Like you're not going to get anything else but like the unfiltered thoughts that I have or that my friends have, because I write it a lot with my homies that moved out here with me.
No, for sure. And I feel like you almost said it so perfectly too. I think the constant reminder of that self-awareness of when it's time to wear that hat and not is a very good start. I think for anyone who's trying to juggle really anything in life, that's a really good way to start. Be aware that you need to be more constant, like you said. So that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to travel back in time with you a little bit, okay? I
Let's
read
go.
or I listened to on a previous interview where you talked about going to guitar lessons with your dad and a sibling. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch up a little bit about that. I promise it'll tie in to what we'll do after the fact. But if I'm not mistaken, you went and took a guitar lesson with your dad and a sibling, but
Yeah, my
then
brother.
with your brother, and then you dropped out after the one session. That's correct, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was like a group lesson, and it was just hard to press my fingers down. I was trying to play an A chord. I'm like, this just isn't for me, man. I also had a payday. You remember like the peanut candy?
I
I'm
do.
allergic to peanuts. I think I got a hive or something that day too. I was like, I'm just gonna quit. I'm not gonna do it. And I don't quit anything, but I quit that day. Yeah.
That's
The only guitar
amazing.
lesson I had. Yeah.
Well, not amazing that you quit. It's amazing the story, the peanut, the payday, all of it. I love that. When it comes to after the fact, you then did
Hmm.
piano and then took some piano lessons. Is that correct?
Yeah. Hmm.
In regards to your relationship with the guitar, because I remember in this interview you also mentioned, which by the way, I listened to it for the first time today, because when I tell you, I try not to deep dive, so I'm not, it doesn't have take an impression on what it is I'm trying to do. Literally just this morning, okay? If
Hmm.
I'm not mistaken, you didn't pick up the guitar until a little bit later in life. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
So kind of what happened was I did that guitar lesson and yeah, we all were kind of like this isn't for us, but I had like the little first act like $50 acoustic. I mean, that's why it's hard to press down. That's why I was like impossible. The action was like the strings are this far from the fretboard, it's like impossible to play. But I started playing piano. I had the lessons, I was learning theory, all that stuff. And when fifth grade came around, you got to pick an instrument in school. I was told that there were too many stand-up bass players, so they gave me the cello. So I was like, okay, but you're young and like you don't really know. You care about what's cool and not cool as a kid because you're always under this influence of like life, and going through life. And I think that through kind of every time I touched the cello, it was like first time I touched the cello, they're like, oh, I need private lessons. Then I started doing private lessons. It's like, oh, like you go to college for this, like to the point where I was doing classical piano and classical cello, and then I kept going through piano teachers because they would be like, I've taught what I need to taught him. He needs to go on to someone new, and that just led to jazz piano. So I was doing jazz piano and cello, and I think like doing so much academic music, especially with like my friend group, I was like, I need to play an instrument that I feel is cool. So that's when I saw the guitar and I was like, let me teach myself guitar, which is so funny how everything, in my opinion, like just works the way it's supposed to. Even if you don't see it, it's because it's like I quit the guitar after I touched it the first time just to go on this big roundabout, like learn all these instruments through school to then play the guitar to now I would say the cello arguably is one of the most important parts of my career, but it would have never been unless I had decided to take the route of the guitar playing band production route.
No, absolutely.
It's interesting. I'll be rambling too. Anytime I'm answering, you're like, "Hey, man, you answered the
No,
question 5 minutes ago."
no, I absolutely love it. And I wanted to respectfully ask this because I
Hmm.
don't want to pry too much about it or, I don't mean this in a very disrespectful way. I'm just truly curious in case I misheard it. But if I'm not mistaken, when you picked the guitar back up, it was after your father passed. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Hmm.
Okay, I definitely wanted to do something that would honor this guitar moment and this thing that really stood out to me in the call because I remember when I was listening to it in the car, it was something that was said, but it wasn't brought up again on that call. And this was a while ago, so I can't even tell you which interview I'm referencing to because I don't
Yeah.
remember. And so I want to do something with you that's going to honor those memories of the class, your dad, the guitar, and
Hmm.
instruments real quick. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In honor of these memories and your dad, I'm going to give you some scenarios, and I want you to tell me what an album inspired by that scenario would be called. So, the first scenario is you, your dad, and your brother are in the car. And you're all just talking. That was so whack. We're never going back. If that ride back post guitar lessons could be an album, what would you name it? And that conversation in general, what would this album be?
If the album was named after that car ride home,
Yeah.
whoa.
I know. I forgot to mention we are going to get a little bit deep, and then I promise you we'll shoot the shit again. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's interesting because like I think my actual project I'm coming out with is gonna have something to do with my dad and like in the title or something.
Oh my gosh, stop.
I'm gonna make this one rapper. I'm gonna say payday. That was the last time I had a damn payday candy bar.
I
I remember
love
being in the
that.
car. I just remember being in the car with my dad and my brother eating this candy from the vending machine and us being like, we're going home. And I was like, man, I feel a little funny after eating this.
That is amazing. The second one I have for you, okay? If the roles were reversed and it was you
Hmm.
all teaching the class, what would your academy be called with you, your dad, and your brother, which would also make the name of this album?
Oh, the academy. I'd call that 424. That's the address that we lived at the longest in Philly. We moved a lot because my dad was in the Navy, but that was the one that when they retired him, when he got cancer, we stayed in. for the longest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is why I live for artists that I invite on because I'm very intuitive with these conversations. And
Mhm.
again, I like to just ask things that really I don't know where they come from. I wish I knew. I'm not a psychic. I don't
Mhm.
practice witchcraft or anything to anyone listening. It's just weird. Okay. But I love that. And I love that you referenced this being something you'll potentially be talking about in your next project because
I mean, you got me thinking that 424 has something to do with it. I'm kind of thinking now.
no, that is amazing. Well, and I love that because my follow-up question to you was going to be, do you think some of your writing today is inspired by conversations you've had with that guitar? I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but for some reason, this question jumped into my mind when I was thinking about, how to honor you and your dad on this episode today. And immediately I just thought about conversations with the guitar. So I had to figure out a way
Yeah.
to incorporate that in there. Do you think that influences your writing today? Because your writing is incredible, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dude, 100%. That question is amazing because what kind of made me pick up the guitar, not just that I thought it was cooler, is because my dad used to just walk around singing Willie Nelson songs, strumming that guitar, and he had no idea how to play the guitar. But it was just like that funny, like in the moment, like you're embarrassed that he's doing it. There's so many moments like that. I don't know if you can relate, like losing a parent. Like you think back to all those times where like, oh, I'm embarrassed that they're doing this out and about, or like, oh, my dad, my dad's this way. But those are the things that you remember and miss the most. And they're also the things that as you get older, you're like, I think I have that. I think my kid would be like, if I had a kid, they'd be like, Dad, why do you act this way socially? Like, I remember certain things that my dad would do. And I'm like, yo, I feel like I do that as well. But with the conversations, yeah, with the guitar, it's like I think about him doing that often. And also, I shared a room with my brother until he left for college. Like that was, I mean, that's my forever best friend. What I mean. Like that was like my first best friend. And I used to pull my bed out from under his in this little trundle bed. And the room could only fit the two beds, mind you. Like we didn't have anything in the room but the two beds, and I would have to push it underneath, like in the morning, so there was room to stand in the room. And he used to ask me to play songs I was writing. He even learned bass so we could be in a band together at one point. And I look back now that I'm here and I've gone through so many things, and music has been a job for me for like over half a decade, And I think about what's changed and how mentally like you change with music. And I look at peers or anything like that and how they view music. And I'm like, dude, the thing that connects me with music is being in that room, is thinking of my dad, is thinking of the music that I make for me as art and not a product to be sold. So yeah, those conversations, they last a lifetime, like, because it's connected me to writing my stuff in the bedroom. Like I go to my room late at night and I sit with a guitar or whatever, or like a keyboard, or even sit down with the cello instead of like, let me make a beat and then do some melodies over it. It's like, yo, I'm trying to like connect with that time in my life. Great question.
No, for sure. And I think that's exactly why I like to have these creative conversations with creatives like you, because if anything, what I take from hearing you talk about this is how ironically, and this is something I can relate to too, where ironically you go back in time and realize that when you had the least of things, you actually had more. And I think that there is so much substance to that. And I think that
Yeah.
that's something I picked up in your writing. There was something about it, specifically a song we're about to talk about next. There was something about just the way you were conveying your message that I'm like, man, it's so crazy how sometimes we do tend to just do interviews where we ask about the writing process, the art cover. We just touch the surface, but we really don't dissect. So thank you for allowing me to go into that place with you because it is a very
Of course.
intimate thing. So a little birdie told me one of your favorite songs in your personal catalog is No Sleep. What
Yeah.
about this song makes it one of your favorite songs?
I think because it proves like the thing I just said in that answer of like having to connect with like who I am more in my music, it proved that point years before I knew it. I wrote it before I put out any No Love music, and I was embarrassed to play it for people because it was so personal. I'm like, no one's gonna care, yada yada yada. And now, like all this time later, I'm like, that's the whole reason why I make my own music, is to be personal about myself, or else I'll just make it for someone else. And it's my favorite because I play it live, and I feel like that's the one like that I'm confident. Like if I haven't won people over, if this one doesn't do it, then like it's not meant to be. Like this is who I am in a song.
They try and tell me who I am before they know me. God
start it with the cello live and this whole thing, and it's kind of Princey with the guitar solo, and I'm like, it's my favorite song, I think. I think I want to re-record it actually the way I do it live and have like a real live version because I didn't even know what I had when I made that song, you know? I just like it was so quick and now I'm still to this day being like, damn, it's my favorite one.
Okay, so I didn't know that about you
Mhm.
playing that live with the cello or anything like that. I actually haven't even watched any clips of you playing this song live. My hands
Okay.
just got so fucking sweaty because this is what I had in my notes. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
What I wrote was, hear me out. Strip the fuck out of that song. Insert cello, drop heavy orchestra to it. And if by any chance you ever reimagine this song with just cello or orchestra related music, I would be so honored to be the first to hear it. And I'd even settle for being the fifth.
Let's go.
That
That's
is
sick.
amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing. Has that
Yeah.
ever crossed your mind about reimagining songs or doing something with just cello sound type of influence and just that?
100%. 100%. It's also been a thing where I'm like, with this new project and taking a step back and being like, what is No Love the artist? And it's, dude, the cello has to be more present. It wasn't present in a lot of my music from like, I guess the last 3 years or however long I've been No Love the artist, you know, but it just has to be more of a theme. So whether I reimagine stuff or the new music has more cellos, like there's gonna be way more cellos, and cellos on every song on this project. And if there's no cello, I'm playing the bow on the guitar.
So sick. Well, I definitely can't wait to listen to it. And again, my hands got so sweaty because I feel like you almost read my notes when you were talking about
Yeah,
that. And I say this a lot to some of my guests whenever coincidences like this happen on the show. The universe has a very clever way of using us as instruments to validate the route we're going creatively, whether it's maybe Andrew needed to hear today that, hey, the universe is ready for that shallow project, dude. Pull it the fuck out, you know? So.
yeah, dude. Now more than ever, I feel like I'm like receptive to that. I literally got in an Uber this weekend, and I wasn't gonna Uber home, but I was like, I'll just do it. And my guy Mike, man, I don't know, that conversation we had was just like, I think for both of us, we just left that ride being like, this just helped me get on a path of just calming down. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And I feel like some things like that, there's no science behind it. You can't explain. So shout out to that Uber driver because we do,
Mike, man.
we definitely have to value those mics in our lives. So
Yeah.
in honor of living in Philadelphia and moving to LA, this is going to be No Love, the Fresh Prince of LA. Are you ready?
Yes.
On the playground was where I spent most of my days. Where was Andrew's favorite hangout spot in high school?
Whoa. There was a parking lot behind my house. It was this, I think it's Allstate Insurance shared with this Indian church. And they had like this shared parking lot. And to get there, you had to like kind of like go through this bramble behind my garage and get there. And we used to all that used to be the hangout spot. That used to be like just debauchery going on back there, but like within a stone's throw of my house. That was a great spot. My studio that was the attic, the unfinished attic of my mom's house, that used to be the band room. So like when I decided to start recording, just like made some changes, like monitors instead of a PA system. But that was always a spot that we could go if it wasn't the roof. Like if my mom was home, I'd love to go out on the roof. I have a song about that, all that stuff. But if my mom was home or and it was the middle of the day, it would be like, okay, let's go to the parking lot. Like let's hang out there.
When's the last time you've been in that parking lot?
3 years ago, because my mom ended up selling the house and to downsize because she's living alone. Yeah, it was crazy. Being in that studio attic was also crazy. I couldn't believe it. I used to stay there when I would come home for the holidays.
Very cool. The next line I have for you is chilling out, max and relaxing all cool. When do you feel like the coolest dude in the world?
When I'm performing.
Love that. First
Well,
of all,
of course.
thank you so much for not judging me because I'm like geeking the fuck out about using these little Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lyrics on this episode. So
If you're
thank you.
from Philly, you just like you these lines, like people say them, and you're like 100%.
I
It's like
love
in our
that.
blood. We just like, you know.
Well, thanks for the validation. I needed it today for this one. The next one I have for you is shooting some b-ball outside of the school. Side note, I know b-ball is for basketball. If No Love was the Super Bowl halftime performer, what legendary artist would you bring out to shock the fuck out of everyone?
Damn, and they have to be alive.
Let's do both. Let's do a dead one and an alive one.
Well, he already did it. It's like the most iconic Super Bowl performance in my opinion, but Prince, hands
For
down, like easy.
sure.
And then if I was to shock people this time, Lil Wayne for sure. One because he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done a Super Bowl, and also he's definitely the reason why I'm a producer.
Isn't it mind-blowing that he hasn't?
It is mind blowing. But I don't really understand the selection for that stuff. I'm always kind of surprised at who's picked. It makes sense, but like who they pick. But yeah, I'm surprised. Maybe lyrical content. I once got a detention because my iPod was playing for a run day and my favorite Lil Wayne song Mega Man came on, and by like the second line they stopped the run day. They're like, you gotta go to the principal's office.
So sent to the principal's office thanks to Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
That is
That
hilarious.
that poster behind me, the Free Wheezy one, is actually like I saw that at the beach, and that's how I got into production.
That is sick. I definitely was looking at it. I was going to mention something about the Misfits earlier and I lost my train of thought,
It changed
but
my
love
life.
it.
The Misfits changed my life in eighth grade.
So cool. I love the influences back there. I love it. I'm definitely going to manifest that and put that out into the universe with you. If that Super Bowl, halftime performance ever did happen, I'll be right there.
Let's go. That'd be amazing.
Finish the sentence, and this one does not have to rhyme to the song, so
Mhm.
definitely make it your own, okay? I got in one little fight and my mom got scared. She said,
I'm trying to think of what would make her laugh the most if she heard this. She would just say, Vinny. If she says my middle name, either all hell's about to break loose or she's about to give me a big old hug. But yeah, I would say she would just say Vinny.
Perfect. That is amazing. Well, that wraps up that Fresh Prince of LA with you. So thank you for doing that with me.
Amazing.
Before we wrap up and talk about everything that's coming up in 2025, okay? In honor of your collaboration and shower video with Sick Brain, if I came to you and said, Yo, Andrew, can you jump in the shower with me real quick? I want you to shave my head and give me a design. What is Andrew designing on my head?
So quiet, do you gonna cry? Call left, call left, call left, call twice today and 10 tomorrow. Call left, call left, call left, call endless, 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 endless.
Oh, what would I design on the head? What? She had me with a straight razor. I was like, dude, I don't even know how to use a straight razor. That was crazy. I would give you the no love stick figure man. Oh, can't even see him. That guy right there.
Perfect. That would be so sick.
That's what I would do. I don't know how it would look with the shaver, but
Well, I mean, I didn't say it needed to look perfect, so
got you then. Easy. Easy.
perfect.
I got you on the
Well,
imperfect stick figure.
exactly. I absolutely loved that video and I loved the song. And also, she is just so fucking beautiful and I'm gay as hell. So that's how you know she actually is beautiful because I think she's beautiful. In regards to that video, something that prompted me to ask you was at what point did Andrew personally not feel sexy, but then later on started to feel sexy? And I don't mean sexy in a very sexual, physical way, right? Something I like to talk about is the older I'm getting, the more secure and confident I'm getting on the show. I feel so
Good.
sexy doing that. So what about you?
Makes
What,
me happy to hear.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Dude, honestly, I think it's just caring less about what people think. Because I wouldn't even say like my confidence would get there more, but also, dude, having sick brain, she gashes me up. She just like I would think I'm a 12 out of 10 when I'm with her. But then I look at her and I'm like, yo, but you are. But if you're saying this to me, I gotta calm down and not be so in my head all the time. It's a good reminder that you just see things about yourself that like no one else sees or cares about.
No, for sure. I feel like that's such a good reminder.
Yeah, and it's like it's not worth the energy. There's so much stuff that's just not worth energy. So I think that's what changed for me.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
getting older rocks. You're just like, dude, it's been a long journey already, man. I gotta just calm down a little bit, or else this is gonna be a lot.
no, exactly. And I feel like, what you just said is so spot on because I do think that when you're able to strip yourself of all the things that you think people are thinking about you, is when you truly start to tap into the things that make you you. And I think that that
Yeah.
is the sexiest thing in the world. And I mean, I noticed on your Instagram, there are a lot of comments of like, oh, sexy and talented. That was the last one I read this morning. And so I was just like, you know what? I've got to talk sex appeal with him because I do think that it is very important to convey what it is that makes you sexy about you. And so thanks for sharing that. I appreciate
Of
that.
course, come on.
I feel like I'm thanking you so much for everything we've done today. And honestly, I usually don't say thank you so much on my episodes. Don't know where that's coming from, but
Let's go. Well, shit, I'm thankful to be here.
no, I appreciate your time so much. When it comes to your 2025 projects and everything coming out, for those that are listening, what can you spoiler alert or what can you give to entice the listeners a little bit about what to expect in 2025?
Well, I'm definitely gonna be back on the road soon. I'm gonna have way more merch. I'm gonna do a bunch of limited runs. I'm back in my painting bag. I'm gonna be painting and doing a lot of stuff around songs. And I have a project. I have a project. A lot of the songs have been done for about a year, written wise. Just been spending all this time trying to figure out the best way to produce it, and it's the best music I've ever done for sure. This album's the reason why I was on this tour with Mod. It's the reason why I'm producing his album with him. It's the reason why I think I'm producing for the artist I'm producing for right now. And I'm just putting a lot more into it, and I'm taking my time on it because I want it to be something people listen to forever.
When it came to that tour with Mod, real quick, just out of
Mhm.
curiosity, is there a city that surprised you the most that received your music well? Like maybe a city that you weren't necessarily so sure that they would even know your music, and then you went there and totally surprised you?
Detroit.
Really?
It was awesome. I just got over being sick too. Like I went to urgent care that morning, went to the show. I played Detroit once with Set It Off and then again with Stand Atlantic, but you never know when you're opening if like obviously people come to see you from other tours, but when it's a different kind of bill, you're never sure. But I guess Stand Atlantic and Mod toured together, so that's a great crossover. And then Set It Off, they're just good ass people with good ass people listening to them. So yeah, it was like the most rowdy when you open, this is such a long answer for no reason. When you open a show and people are completely silent, Mod gave me this game. That is an amazing thing. You'll be worried as the performer. It's like, oh, they're like not making noise, yada yada yada. It's like they're not making noise because they're listening and they're like, whoa, I need to take in all this. You can't expect them to jump to something that they've never heard before, especially if they're trying to figure out if they like it. But Detroit, it was like they knew the music and were rowdy. And I was like, oh,
So
oh
sick.
yeah.
Is it safe to say that in 2025, Detroit will get to see you again?
I would absolutely love that. If I do a headline tour, Detroit will 100% be on there if you ask me.
And then you mentioned talking about, working with, more artists and stuff. Can you
Mhm.
manifest with me real quick? Is there an artist that you haven't worked with yet that you're hoping to get your hands on in 2025?
That I haven't worked with yet. As far as like, yeah, I mean, I would love to work with Jack Antonoff. That would be like insane because to me, he's just like, he's just paving the way for producer artists, in my opinion. I'm like, you're doing your thing. It's in its own space, but then you're like capable of working with all these other artists over here. That would be dope. And then there's this rapper Skrilla from Philadelphia that I really like. He's coming up and he has his own sound that's in a really cool way. And it would be cool to kind of do some stuff over there as well. Again, like that brings me back to like Philadelphia and my production journey and.
So sick. I definitely will put that out into the universe as well so that
Let's
those
go.
alignments happen. The last thing I want to ask you before we really close out the episode, if no love for the middle child, who gets the most love in your opinion, the oldest or the youngest?
The youngest for sure. The oldest got paved the
1000%.
way. they got to pave the way. And then the middle one, we're just the ones that got to work really hard, you know? And then the youngest, all the rules don't apply to them.
1,000%.
I
Thank you
can't
so
wait for my
much for
sister
your
to hear
time.
that.
I literally was just thinking, I can't wait for my younger brother to listen to that. I'm literally the middle child of five, so.
They say I'm the favorite now. They say my brother and sister, they say I'm the favorite because I stayed longer at my mom's house than everybody else. But I'm like, nah, man, you got to remember growing up, though.
Exactly. That's what everyone says about me. And I'm like, no, I'm the middle child. But everyone's like, you're the favorite. That's hilarious.
See, that's why we got the vibe. You're a middle child. We got to stick together.
Exactly. Well, thanks again so much for your time, Andrew. I am so pumped to get this out into the world and can't
Me
wait to
too.
keep following your journey. And thank you again for everything, for your energy. I definitely feel like we could have talked for another 3 hours. So that is such a good
Absolutely.
feeling. So
Absolutely. And next time, what city are you in?
I'm in Austin.
Oh, next time I'm there. Yeah, you got to pull up to a show.
Would love it. And I'm in LA a lot too, though. So I'll definitely hit you up when I'm there.
Amazing. That sounds great.
Perfect. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye. Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.